How's it going, everybody? Welcome to vlog number 9. This one's going to be a little longer because I forgot to mention last week at the end of vlog 8 that this vlog was going to be late. I was in the Outer Hebrides finding my ancestors and where they came from, and it was really great, but I'll get to there in a minute. First I need to wrap up the end of junior week, and then I can go into how that trip went. So for the rest of junior week, we had to dress one day as seals. One day was supposed to be Doctor Who, one day was supposed to be coffee, and one day was supposed to be our favorite professors. We didn't get to do the Doctor Who one because we had a hard time finding the appropriate outfits for it at a reasonable price and in a timely manner. So we didn't get to do that one. We want to do it. It just might be late. But for the seal day, we went to the aquarium that's in St. Andrews and took a picture with a little statue of a seal that they had at the entrance, and then got to see the actual seals that were there. And it was really great. I was pretty impressed with how they ran the aquarium because it seemed like they really took good care of the animals there. They didn't have them crowded in tanks that were too small or training them to do things just for the benefit of people. The seals only knew tricks for medical safety type reasons is the best way I can think to describe it. So they knew commands to go and race, and they could see if, in theory, their flippers are in good shape, and some of them know commands to show their teeth, so in theory they can kind of get a glance and check and see if there's anything obviously wrong with their teeth and things of that sort. So I was really happy about that. I have tons of really cool pictures from the aquarium, and I'll only be able to show a few, but what I thought was kind of interesting was it was an aquarium, but they had meerkats. And I found out it was because there was, I think it was a zoo nearby that had to get rid of a few of the meerkats. And evidently it's near impossible to introduce new meerkats to an existing group. So the aquarium had a space that they couldn't figure out what to do with anyways. And they were looking at opening a new Africa exhibit. So they decided, hey, let's get some meerkats. And it's pretty great. There's 17 of them now, I think. All the new ones are the babies of the mated pair from the original 3 that they had. The mated pair are named Will and Kate, so the aquarium has their own Will and Kate in St. Andrews, and I thought that was really cute. So it was really neat. We saw a lot of cool tanks and exhibits. They had penguins as well. There was also this little kind of bubble aquarium where there was a little tunnel underneath and you could crawl and poke your head up in a little glass dome inside of there, and Dallas and I both did that. That was fun. We also both had to dress up as coffee, but Dallas got Starbucks and I got Costa coffee, and so we just kind of dressed in the color theme of both franchises and then posed in front of each coffee place, and we had the logo on our chest taped, and to-go lid in our hair, beret in our hair. And we also had to do our favorite professors one day. And it was really funny because Dallas got our advisor, Dr. Morrissey, and I got our choir professor, Marcia. And if you don't know either of them, it's funny because I am considerably taller than Dallas. I am about 5'9" almost, I think. And Dallas is 5'2". But Dr. Morrissey is about 6'7" or 6'8" or something like that. And Marcia is about 5'5", 5'6". So we both kind of got switched on the sizes, and so trying to pose pictures with both of us trying to look the role as best as possible was kind of hilarious. We ended up going to the pier because our secret seniors told us that's where we needed to go. We decided the best way to try and do it would be for Dallas to stand on this part of the pier while I was standing on regular ground, so she would appear taller than me. And we luckily found a nice lady who agreed to take our photo, and so those turned out really, really cute as well. At the end of the day on Friday, our seniors revealed themselves to us and also sent pictures of our robes, and we'll have our baskets with goodies in them waiting for us when we get back. So that's really, really exciting, and I'm looking forward to that. My robe is great, and I'm really excited for it. I can't wait to add things to it and be able to wear it next semester. So that, yeah, oh God, next semester. So, oh no. Yeah, looking forward to that, but also, where did the time go? Anyways, on to the main event, which would be our Hebridean adventure. We got packed the night before and bought all our tickets for trains and buses that needed to be pre-purchased and headed out at, what time was it? I think, yeah, I got up at 7:50 and we took the bus that was, I believe, 9:45 in order to catch a 10:30 train at Lukers, which is quite close. This is about a 20-minute bus ride from St. Andrews. And from there we had two layovers, so to speak, where we had to switch trains at Dundee and then at Perth. We had to switch so we could reach Inverness. And we actually left a day early, spent the night in Inverness. Didn't really do anything. We didn't get there early enough. It was a Sunday, so everything closed at 5. But we did get McDonald's, and neither of us have had that since January at the earliest, I believe. No. Well, soonest. Whatever the correct word is. But it was good. It was a little different. They had different McFlurry flavors, like Cadbury egg. I thought that was kind of weird. And their quarter pounder was not a quarter pounder. It was just 1 patty instead of 2. So that was also slightly different. And they're doing the Monopoly promotion that a lot of McDonald's do, but their Monopoly spaces, the board spaces, are different. Like, there wasn't Park Place or any of that. Everything was relevant to the UK, which makes sense, but it was still odd because I'm relatively certain that Monopoly is an American-made board game, but it's cool that they change it to make it relevant for the country that they're doing the promotion in this instance, but presumably also the board game is being sold in. We kind of lucked out in Inverness, though, because when we arrived, we didn't have any preset arrangements to stay anywhere overnight. We just knew that we were going to stay overnight. And we reached the information center for Inverness maybe 10 minutes after it closed. Luckily, there was someone in there still closing up the building, and we pushed the button it was actually for handicap assistance, but we pushed the button and he came out and we just told him we were looking for a hostel. If you could just direct us somewhere, that would be really helpful. And he was very nice. He went back in and he took about 10 or 15 minutes, and so we briefly entertained the thought that maybe he was like, if I slip out the back door, they won't notice. And no, he was actually printing out all the hostels and marking them on a map, which was very, very nice. And he pointed us in the right direction. The hostel was called Bazpackers Hostel, which was kind of weird, but it was super, super nice and not what I was expecting. I've never been in a hostel before, and the only time I'd ever heard the word was Eli Roth's horror movie, which I refrained from watching before going on this trip. Yeah, it was kind of weird. I don't know where the people who ran it were from, but I think they were kind of either Eastern European or possibly Mediterranean, because they were all olive-skinned and had very dark hair. But I couldn't identify the accent because I just didn't have an ear for it. It wasn't very obvious to me. But the woman who helped us get settled was very, very sweet. We got to stay for only, I believe it was £17 for the night. And we were in a all-women's area of the hostel, so that was really nice. And the door's locked. So it's just like A+ all around, because it was something I was kind of nervous about because I had never done it. But it turned out to be perfectly fine. And yeah, so we just stayed there. We went out. Well, we got there and we put our stuff in the room after we paid. And then we went out for dinner and came back. And so, yeah, it was interesting to say the least. We were in a room that was actually for 4, but we lucked out and no one else came in looking for a room that fit those specifications. So it was kind of weird, but it was cool. The next day on Monday, we had to get up quite early to catch the bus from Inverness to Ullapool, where we could get the ferry to Stornoway. I actually woke up a little before my alarm, and I was starting to kind of freak out a little bit because I had finally got my phone working and was using that as the alarm. And I woke up before it, but it was quite bright outside. The alarm was for 7 a.m. And I was worried that the alarm just hadn't gone off or that my phone had died overnight because I didn't know when sunrise was, but it seemed like it was too bright out to be before 7 a.m. Turned out it was. I don't know when sunrise is, but apparently it's pretty early, probably like 5 a.m. And we got up, we left and got to the bus station in time. I had pre-purchased tickets online, and so we just got to go on and take a seat, and then it was about a little over an hour, I think, to get from Inverness to Ullapool. And I think I got some pictures. If not, do I have pictures? Yeah, I think I do have a couple pictures of the bus ride, as well as the train from Perth to Inverness. So I'll put those up and label them. We got to the ferry about probably 30 minutes before being able to board, so we just kind of sat and found a coffee vending machine, got some coffee, and tried to wake up because even though the hostel was really nice, it was still a lot of traveling in a short span of time, so we were pretty tired. And we boarded the ferry, which was weird because it was a lot like boarding a cruise, which I've done a couple of. And yeah, so the gangway was very much like a cruise. The ferry was much larger than I was expecting it to be. It was probably, oh man, I'm terrible at guessing stuff like this, but if I had to, I would say like a third of the size of the Carnival Holiday, if any of you have a reference for that kind of thing. Other than that, it was Caledonian McBrain, if you want to Google it, or maybe I might put a picture of the ferry up. But it was very nice. It was totally different from what I was expecting. I've never been on a ferry before. And when we entered, there was tables and seating and a little coffee shop, and then on the other side of that, there was a full cafeteria restaurant. Well, they served hot meals and stuff like that, but you walked through with a tray and picked the things you wanted and ordered the hot meals you wanted, got a number, and then sat at a nearby table. They'd bring it out to you. It wasn't enclosed, so to speak. But it was really interesting, and we were on there. I was reading the second Outlander book, and Dallas did some Greek homework, and around 12:30, I suggested we get lunch on board because it was hot and decently priced. And we did. Unfortunately, we didn't realize the disembarking time for the ferry and ordered it right in time to just about have to get off. So we absolutely inhaled the fish and chips we got in about 5 minutes. And it was not small, and it was lava hot. It was molten hot. So that was not a fun time, but the excitement of being in a new place kind of helped make up for it. A family friend of ours put me in contact with the Carloway historian. We had made arrangements for him to show us around in the time that we were there and to pick us up from the ferry. So when we got off, it turns out, okay, so I was talking to our friend, and he said that he was friends with Ian, was the name of the guy that helped us, and he said he was friends with Ian to look him up on his Facebook, and I evidently looked at the wrong Ian because I was looking for a bald guy that was like in his 40s and didn't see one, so we walked out of the building and we're looking to see if there's a guy in a car or something like that, and I just felt a hand on my elbow, and he was like, hey, Victoria. I was like, hi. He was like, you walked right past me. I'm Ian. I was like, oh no. Completely looked up the wrong person. So that was kind of funny. Ian was a really great guy. He was immensely helpful. We would not have accomplished we would not have accomplished anything. We probably wouldn't have even gotten to the hostel we were intending to go to if he hadn't have helped us, because I knew beforehand that going to the Isle of Lewis was really, really different than really any other part of Scotland, particularly from the region I've been in for these, 3 months, almost 4. And I didn't quite realize how Spartan it was up there, though, because I'm not confident I would have been able to find a cab or a bus easily to get to where I was going, particularly not without knowing the schedules ahead of time, which I didn't. So Ian took us to Tesco first to get food for the night, which was fine. I wasn't anticipating it, but I was also kind of not surprised. I was thinking there was a possibility of maybe going to a restaurant for dinner and then probably skipping breakfast, but I'm very glad that he made us go to Tesco's and get food. So we went in, and it was so funny because we were looking around for easy things that we wouldn't have to worry about having leftovers of. And you'd swear that we hadn't eaten in a week and that we would likely starve if we didn't buy enough food for probably 8 people. Because we were trying to find stuff and be a little conservative, and Ian was just like, no, you need to have this and this and this. And so we ended up buying a quiche for dinner that night, apples so we could have with dinner and then in the morning, because I am not a breakfast eater. I just don't do it. Not me. Half a loaf of bread. Oh, that's 3 things. Butter and marmalade. So we ended up getting so much more than we had anticipated, but we ate a lot of it, and there was someone else in the hostel that we ended up sharing with, but I'll get there in a minute. After we got our food, Ian took us to, it was so funny, everything that he took us to, he was like, okay, I'm going to take you to this place whether you like it or not. And we're like, okay, this is fine. Everything is fine. And it was all very exciting. So Dallas and I are both Outlander fans, and being that particular variety of dorky, we were both trying to find where they filmed in the series for Craig na Dun. Turns out you really can't find it. I think they probably use a set for the show, because Discover Scotland or some website like that that's affiliated with the Scottish government, I believe, has a list of places to go for film locations, but that wasn't on there, even though it's a major point in the show, like it's an important place in the show. But on the Isle of Lewis, there are the Callanish standing stones, and Ian took us there, and it was really incredible. The Callanish stones are the same concept as the stones in Outlander. They're just much bigger, and it was really cool to be able to see them in person. And it was very nice because Ian, everywhere we went, offered to take pictures of the both of us. And the center stone, I don't recall how tall it is exactly, but very taller than if Dallas was on my shoulders, certainly. It was just really, really interesting. And it was super windy while we were there, but it didn't matter, even though it was cold, because it was just so, everything was really breathtaking. So even the wind really wasn't that cumbersome. And it was just a really good time. We went into the little building that they had by the stones and we got tea and we got cakes while we were in there. After that, Ian drove us around and showed us where my twice great grandparents were from. Grandpa McKay was from a place called Kyrvik, and it's a Norse word that means Chapel Bay. The Vikings and Scandinavians had a strong presence in Scotland early before Scotland was formed as an independent country, and so that's where the name of that village comes from. And Granny McKay comes from a village called Dun, which is Gaelic, but I don't recall what it means. I have pictures of Dun and the neighborhood that's there now. The original house that Granny McKay would have grown up in is no longer there, but I got a picture of what may or may not have been her original home, and I also have an aerial type picture of what that style house looked like at the time, because also in Dune is Dune Broch Carloway. Well, if it's Gaelic, it's Carlova. But we got to go there because it's literally right next door. It's here's the houses, and then up a hill is the Broch. And that was really, really cool as well because we got to crawl around inside there and explore it a little bit. The doorways were incredibly small. I know 5-year-olds who would have hit their head probably going through those doorways. So we had to crawl around a bit and crouch down, but it was really incredible. And the view it gave, particularly after the sun came out, was just really breathtaking. It was funny because even though there was fencing all around it, the sheep still found a way through. So there were several sheep around the Broch while we were there. After the Broch, we drove through Kiervik, which I didn't get any pictures of because we didn't drive in the same way we drove through Dune, but I did get a picture of St. Michael's Chapel, or rather what's left of it, and the graveyard that is next door. They're at a distance, but I do have a picture of them that I can show. And then we went from there to Girnen. Oh God, I'm going to butcher these Gallic names. Girnen, which is the Black House hostel village type place that we stayed in. And that was one of the coolest things I've ever done. It's definitely one of the coolest places I've ever stayed. They are all dry stone thatch roof houses, and they've been modernized, obviously. One of them is preserved in the fashion it would have appeared in the 1950s, not long after World War II. And I took pictures inside of there, and there was a peat moss fire burning, and the smell was really different, but it was also very pleasant. Our building was completely modern, but it still felt genuine, and it wasn't the lap of luxury, but it was also fine because the view was incredible, and with novelty, everything seems better, but it was still a really great experience. And I'm definitely glad that I went. There were two other women staying in the hostel. One, I don't know her name because she didn't speak much. She was pretty shy. But the other we kind of made friends with, and she was quite nice. We talked for about 2 hours at dinner, and she told us when she went out that there was a sunset that was quite nice. And so I got tons of pictures of that. We went out after she told us. We grabbed our jackets and went out, and we were heading down the path towards the water, and we just heard a whistle from a nearby above, and we turned and looked up the hill, and she was up at the top of a hill that I didn't even know there was a path to get up there, but there was. So we raced up there, which was a total mistake because my quadriceps were quivering on the way up because it was not a good idea. It was very, very steep, but it was very worth it also because the view was great, and even though the sunset wasn't blazing orange and pink and what have you, it was still really beautiful in its subtlety, and we got some great pictures out of it, and it was definitely a great experience. Really, that Monday, even though it was only about, I think it was 6 hours that we were running around, that was the bulk of, well, that was really all we did while we were there. And it was great though. We really, with the help of Ian, we wouldn't have done anything without him. We wouldn't have probably even been able to leave Stornoway. But with Ian's help, we really made the most of the time that we spent there. Oh, I did forget one thing. We went to Dalmore, which is a beach, and it was really incredible. The Atlantic was the water that was at the beach, and it was so blue looking. I don't live terribly far from the coast, and I've seen the Atlantic several times, but I'd never seen it look so blue, and it was really, really beautiful. Evidently, Dalmore is popular with surfers, and I can see why, because the waves looked about as craggy and violent as a lot of the landscape did. It was one of those moments where you kind of realize how powerful the ocean is, so that was really, really neat. But we left Monday at 11:30, and Ian bought lunch for us, and it was very sweet of him. So we ate, and then he dropped us off at the ferry, and we ferried back, and then immediately went from there to a bus, and then immediately from the bus to the train to St. Andrews. So we really traveled for about 12 hours from the time that Ian picked us up and we were in his car, because we didn't get back to our building until about 11:15. So that was a very long day, and Dallas was starting to feel a bit ill, and she's still recovering from it, but she's doing okay. So I would say overall it was definitely worth it, and because I was there for such a short amount of time, I really, really hope I can go back again sometime soon. It was just an all-around really incredible experience. I'd intended on recording and posting yesterday on Wednesday, but that didn't happen because I was exhausted just from traveling so much over really 2.5 days. So I just laid in bed and watched a lot of YouTube. Oh, and I did go out and get a couple groceries, because from when we were on the train coming back, Dallas started to feel worse. But it wasn't that bad on Tuesday night, and then on Wednesday it was really bad. So I went out and I bought her ginger tea and a bunch of other home remedy type things, because there's not a clinic we can really go to. But she's slowly recovering and will be perfectly fine soon enough, I'm sure. But yeah, that's really it. I feel like this video is not going to do any justice to the time I spent there, because I am not skilled enough to put it into words. It was mind-blowing, really. And so I got nothing. It was incredible, and I don't know, when you think about Scotland, or when most people think about Scotland, I think where we went and what we saw is really what people romanticize and envision. And the fact that I got to see it and see that it was real, even though it's not the entire country, but I got to see it, and that's where my people and where my ancestors came from, was just, I don't even know. It was incredible. And I am immensely grateful to Ian for showing us around and being a gentleman, and also to our friend for introducing and connecting us. But yeah, that's really all I have for this week. This didn't take as long as I anticipated, but it's because I'm incredibly inarticulate. It was too mind-blowing for me to be able to describe. So if you have a question about it, feel free to comment or message me or whatever, and I will do my best to try and explain, or I don't even know. It's whatever. But I hope you enjoyed this video. If you liked it, send it to a friend or hit the like button. Subscribe if you haven't already, maybe. And I hope to see you in the next one. Bye-bye.
Find your way back home.